let's do this disclosure here so we can look at these earnings. I'm an associate member of T3 Trading Group, which is an SEC registered broker-dealer and member of FINRA SIPC. All of my trades are placed through T3 Trading Group. You should carefully consider whether trading is suitable for you in light of your own financial condition. Position disclosure. Let's look at this. Let's get these charts up. Most of these earnings reports are looking pretty okay, or at least the reactions to them are pretty okay. Outside of this Teladoc, like this Teladoc is just, geez, rest in peace, off 22% here. But other things are looking good here. This Lending Club's up 20%. This Lending Club sometimes moves these other stocks like SoFi and Upstart and Affirm. They're somewhat similar businesses. So let's see here. As I say that, I'm seeing SoFi upticking after hours. So let's see about that one. We got Pinterest. You know, honestly, real quick, just peripherally, neither the Pinterest number nor the Facebook number looked fantastic to me. They didn't look great. But this is what we were talking about today during the day, you know, particularly with Facebook. And Facebook had this weird thing come out where news hit that the guidance leaked and it was not correct. It was the previous quarter's guidance or whatever, and the stock got smoked on it, snapped all the way back, then rolled all the way back down. This thing is so destroyed that all they needed to do was not report something abysmal, and the thing could rally. And that's what we're seeing right now. Facebook here, still going. Facebook's still going, up 9%. Let's get the pre-market chart up. I mean, sorry, the post-market chart up. Yeah, so Facebook here just totally rocking and rolling. Pinterest here also just totally rocking and rolling. Whew, looks like Coursera came out. I'm seeing Coursera down. Teladoc is 7% of ARK. I'm surprised ARK's not down more. Teladoc's getting just absolutely massacred. They're expecting fiscal year 2022 EPS at negative $43. And the Q1 report was negative $41 versus negative 55 cents expected. That's got to be taking into account something else, right? There's got to be something else going on there. So anyway, Teladoc getting wrecked here. But you got like in growth world, some of these other ones are doing okay. Like this Upwork is trading up here, pretty nice. Lending Club we just discussed. I consider that to be kind of a growth stock. Trading up pretty nice. Not a growth stock, more traditional tech here. Qualcomm. Qualcomm's trading well here after hours. So most of these things are doing well. You know, Qualcomm's up 5%. Facebook now is up 10%. Pinterest here is also up 10%. We got Ford report. Ford is trading higher. So most of these things here are trading pretty well. Yeah, most of these things here are trading pretty well. So let's see if this can help market sentiment at all. What's the market doing after hours? Not too much. SPYs are upticking a little bit. That we're still not even at that key SPY 420 that we were battling back and forth with all day. Qs aren't even at Q320, which was a key level that we were battling back and forth all day. It just shows you how weak we were to the close. We got PayPal out now. Looks like adjusted EPS is in line. Revenue's a small beat. Yeah, it's just what I'm saying. These companies don't even seem like they have to report decent numbers. Those numbers don't look decent. I mean, they don't look good, is what I'm trying to say. They don't look great, but they're not misses. I guess let's see what happens here with PayPal. Guidance is key with these things, though. We gotta see the guidance number. PayPal now all the way down, as I say that. Started with an initial pop, now down 3%. Need to see guidance numbers on these things. Market just all over the place. Pat, you see any Coursera numbers? Yeah, the Facebook guidance looked like a small miss on revenue, and that's what's so impressive on it, right? They basically were in line on users. They basically were in line on users. I think EPS was a decent beat, revenue was a little bit of a miss, and guidance was a small miss, very small miss. Which for these types of companies, what we've consistently seen is that they get wrecked when guidance misses. But a very, very small miss. That's not a good EPS number from Coursera. Jeez. When they have these small misses here in the past, they've been getting wrecked. But now it's up 10% on it. It just shows you how this market is totally flipped. Coursera revenue guidance is a beat. Or is it 2022 revenue guidance is a beat? Second quarter looks like in line-ish. No real printing of this going on in this thing. Whew. Yeah, I think that this is a really positive sign that Facebook is reacting like this off of this report, because it's not a fantastic report, but it just shows you that market sentiment was so trashed. I think you could see it. This price action here this afternoon on Facebook, you could see it, right? That headline came out that was then not real. So it ripped all the way back to where it started, which is exactly what should happen. So Facebook should be trading at around 178. You know, fine. It obviously is going to move throughout the day. But from that point, the sellers were just like, you know what? Nope, I don't think so. I'm not doing this again. I'm not doing another Netflix. I'm not doing another Facebook from last quarter. They just want it out, and it's enabling this thing to be able to rally. Dude, this Teladoc is so bad. Oh my god. PayPal is all over the place right now. Where are we on this PayPal? PayPal's down 3% right now. It's small though. It's kind of all over the place. Yeah, for real. The Teladoc looks like it should be a 0 on those numbers. We're expecting negative 55 cents earnings. We got negative $42. There's got to be some sort of one-off impairment or something like that, right, to create that kind of number. That can't be just like a regular. There's got to be more to it. We got LVS just came out as a small miss. PayPal sees adjusted EPS. That's not a good number. PayPal's holding in. PayPal sees fiscal year adjusted EPS at 381 to 395 and an estimated 462. That's a huge miss. I know. I wonder what Kathy's salary is, man. How do I sign up for that job? Yeah, ARC is still nibbling lower here, down to $49. PayPal's trading in the green now. This Teladoc is so bad. Teladoc now off 31%. That Lending Club is still trading really well here. Lending Club's up 20%. SoFi with a little bit of an uptick here after hours off of that. What about Upstart? Upstart, this is exactly what I was saying. A company like Lending Club beats that big, and some of these other things should be moving also. Upstart trading up as well. All right. I mean, this is the most important thing right now, honestly, is what this Facebook is doing right here. It's almost like we don't even need to have an afternoon meeting, but we will. Yeah, and honestly though, look at this Facebook, even with this move, it's not even back to where it was like 5 days ago. which is kind of wild, you know? But the value players are interested. The value people are interested at these prices. So we will see. I think that this is definitely, we'll see where it is tomorrow. I think that they've got their conference call at 5. But this is definitely going to be good for broader market sentiment if it's able to hold up here. We'll see. Was Apple moving after hours? A little bit and then came back down. All right. The PayPal numbers don't look good to me. Sorry, I keep trying to start this meeting and then getting further distracted, but it's up for the moment. Okay. I guess let's talk about the market here a little bit. SPYs, we had a negative day today, right? And now we're up a little bit, or did we end up closing flat? I'm trying to figure this out. Because now we're up after hours, so it's just messing my charts up a little bit. So we closed today at 417.36. What did we close at yesterday? 416.10. So small update here for the SPYs. And SPYs, I think, were the strongest of the indices during the day. The Qs kept trying to battle with that 320. They had pockets of strength. I guess they're up small on the day as well. And they're, the Qs are up almost $2.50 here after hours. Qs closed today at 317.14. And or is that's yesterday's close? What's today's close? Today's close was 316.73. So Qs actually closed red today. Qs closed red, but they're up a little bit after hours. And the IWM definitely closed red. The IWM is still red, and that's a concern. You know, I kept saying it throughout the day. Let's look at these small time frame charts. Like here, you know, SPYs are looking okay. Microsoft was a big part of the market. We can talk about Microsoft. SPYs looking okay. They're above 420. And I mentioned, you know, into 10 o'clock here that I was really concerned that if Microsoft, which was super extended on a small time frame, had a technical pullback, that it would cause these SPYs to get back below 420 and fail. And that's exactly what happened. Microsoft gave a big technical pullback. It was really like a 15-minute correction to make new lows in the day. And that caused SPYs to not just lose 420, but to even make new lows in the day and break yesterday's lows. Qs were a similar situation. Qs right off the open, looking really good, looking really strong. Microsoft pulls back. They end up doing a full reversal, making new lows in the day. A lot of that was based on Microsoft. But you did have what I thought was really interesting today, and one of several things that made today. Today was another tricky day, which is fine. You know, we were basically in wait and see mode today for earnings, and now Facebook is so far so good. What made today really hard was I had very few names on my list. The only two names I had on my list today were Microsoft, 280, and Intel, long versus $4.90. But I also said that anything that looks like it had relative strength yesterday or the last several days, I wanted to pay attention to today to see, in case the market gives an oversold bounce, which an oversold bounce, similar to what we had 2 days ago, makes sense after yesterday's price action, even if it's a short-lived bounce, that maybe the stocks that were relatively strong and holding in could act well. So that's what put Path on my radar. There was a few other growth companies that were similar to this. I know Diego mentioned Stitch Fix as an example, which is one I haven't looked at in quite some time. But with this Path here, you know, a handful of days in a row now of relative strength, which even included yesterday into that weakness. So I wanted to see if this could give some sort of upside follow-through. And I ended up being disappointed on that. It's actually a super, super tight range here for Path today. But it was still, you had risk assets in the equity market acting relatively strong initially. So you can see here with Path that was on my radar that it was acting relatively strong initially. One of the big risk assets that's out there that was super strong off the open was the Chinese stocks. China did well last night, and China did well this morning. This Alibaba ripping. This is like risk on to me. You know, if I'm looking at growth stocks outperforming this morning, I'm seeing Alibaba ripping. I'm seeing JD ripping. XBI was a little bit more disappointing. It's another one that I look at because it tends to be, you know, biotech tends to be a little bit more of a risk on type of situation. So this XBI was a little bit more disappointing. But for the most part, I'm looking at things that are riskier assets actually acting well this morning, which is interesting. We've seen that for a few days in a row. And then like the XLE, I'm like, okay, the XLE is not going to be what's strong today. You know, just 2 red bars in a row, and then a little bit of an oversold doji on very low volume that leads to a snapback. And then out of nowhere, when the market topped out here at like 10 a.m. and gave this pullback to lows, the relative strength, relative weakness situation totally flipped intraday. What was strong off the open became a lot weaker, and what was weak off the open really started to lead us up. So go back to that BABA 5-minute chart. The fact that BABA could give a move like this with this type of momentum off the open, go from $85 to $89.50 in 15-20 minutes, and then give a 100% retracement to make new lows, it was like, oh, well that's not good. And then you know, a lot of the growthy type stocks, like you can look at ARK too. You know, I've been looking at this ARK more and more as an ETF, just to have an understanding of broadly what growth is doing and what these kind of risk-on assets are doing. ARK looking to be strong off the open, bam, breaking new lows, and then just got super weak here all day. Just a very weak consolidation all day in negative territory. And then at the same time as that's happening, then this XLE, which started like kind of garbage off the open, ends up being really strong. So at the end of the day here, energy is up 1.5%, and actually ended up really performing. So today was another day that was just super tricky and choppy. And again, I had a very small list. I wanted to see what was relatively strong, but that was difficult. And then even, you know, during the day, I spent some time on the VTF here midday, and I was just chatting with you guys because there wasn't anything really to do except just to chat a little bit, because this price action in here just was no good. And the biggest thing for me is every time the market started to look good, when you got these SPYs back above 420, when you had these Qs getting back above 320, there was just no participation from the IWM. The IWM just never, all day today, got above anything I needed it to get above. I really wanted this thing above 190. It couldn't even do it. It was holding 189 as intraday resistance. SPYs and Qs started looking better at a certain point, but no IWM confirmation. And I just think that the IWM has been honestly the most important index to look at recently. It really kind of hit me like a ton of bricks at some point here over the course of the last month or so, that it's really been the IWM that's been leading this market. When the IWM starts showing some relative strength and holding up, we see other things follow through, and when the opposite is that way, it seems like it starts taking everything else down with it. So this IWM, it just wouldn't participate during the day. And when it couldn't break above, then eventually this market started rolling over into the close. We lost 420 again on an intraday basis, closed weak, closed almost at 417. Qs lost at 320. They closed really weak as well, almost closed kind of close to lows. And honestly, this type of consolidation, pick your index, this type of consolidation is bearish. It's bearish for your big picture. Right now, this market is extremely bearish. Yesterday was not all-time closing close, wow. Yesterday was closing lows for the year for all 3 of our major indices that we like to look at. And this market just looks bearish in every time frame, but the only thing that you can look at is when we get extended to the downside is we can look for those oversold bounces, because those oversold bounces have been, you know, some of the best opportunities of the year. Recognizing this extension on January 24th, this extension on February 24th on the Russian invasion day, the market dynamics that led to this massive short squeeze here in the second half of March. So big picture, you know, you're still better off, even with Facebook potentially helping out the indices here and having a little bit of a relief of sentiment. For the moment, the technicals here still say that you're better off being short than long, but we just got to be careful being too short when our market dynamics start telling us that we could have a short squeeze, and because those short squeezes can be big, vicious, and fast, and we get too extended to the downside. And that's kind of where we were today. After yesterday's close, we were really too extended to the downside to be able to do much shorting. We had a very small common gap up, flattish open, which, you know, even made it difficult to come in and take advantage of that downside extension as a buying opportunity. it just led to a pretty overall tricky day. So again, I just had a few very selective things on my radar that I was looking at today, and honestly, I traded pretty light. Microsoft ended up not getting involved in, but the 280 area was key. Very tricky. If anyone was long off 280 here, almost impossible to hold it through this low. So I don't know if anybody was able to actually capture this full move here at the end of the day, but if you did, Microsoft was pretty decent. Tel was the other one that was on my radar. We saw some interesting, information that Pat posted on. I guess it's that Delta chart that you've been posting, Pat. And Tel was like one of the most bullish ones that was on there yesterday when you posted it at one point, which I just thought was interesting. I thought that the XLE, just as a proxy for energy stocks in general, looks pretty sloppy after yesterday's candle. But today it's giving a little bit of improvement because of that relative strength. Natural gas, though, has been really strong, even stronger than oil, more recently. And Tel is more involved in natural gas, but plus that Delta information that you posted. So that's really what put this on my list today. I ended up not getting involved in it, which I'm a bit annoyed at myself about. But that was a decent trade. Sorry, I'm still reading what you guys are saying about some of these earnings reports. So that was decent. And then I just didn't get any follow through like in some of these growthy type stocks that I was looking to see if they could give follow through. Because of the relative strength. I wanted to see if that relative strength could hold. And no real upside movement in that path. Stitch Fix was one that we talked about. It's okay, it held in, but no real upside movement on it. Sunrun I know got chatted about. Opening strength there, but that thing rolled over more than you would like it to also. Facebook over 200 bucks. All right. Apple above 158. Is Teladoc still, jeez. Teladoc down 38%, bro. She's going to buy tomorrow. I'm guessing that she's going to buy tomorrow. She always does. Whenever one of her stocks goes down 30%, the next day she did the same thing with Path, right? Path on like this day and this day, she bought a boatload of stock for like 3 days in a row into this gap down off of that earnings report. And to be fair, I didn't think that the Path earnings report was actually that terrible. But once again, she's well out of the money on pretty much every purchase that she does. We were saying that even when times were good for her, that it always just seemed like her execution was so bad. Stephen saying, she must love it now if she loved it when it was 500% higher. Ain't that the truth, man? Teladoc here. Teladoc is at lows right now. All time? No. Lows going back to 2018. Wow. And that's ridiculously bad. A company like this, my thought process is that more and more people, even before COVID, were turning to online health situations, because we all know going to the doctor's office is kind of a crummy experience most of the time. If you could do most of those things from your own home, it's obviously going to be better. So insane here that even with that movement and fine, you give back a lot of your COVID gains, which makes a lot of sense. But the fact that this company has had zero improvement from a price perspective since 2018, given kind of the big picture of people wanting to do more of what this business is supposed to do, is really, really bad. Yeah, Invisalign here is another one. This Align is getting hit after. This is like one of the two big down ones I'm seeing here after hours. Is Invisalign and Teladoc. So that's all I got for you guys. I know this meeting was a little bit all over the place because we're right in the heart of earnings season. And tomorrow we have Amazon and Apple. I don't always do an afternoon meeting on Apple's earnings day. Or sometimes I do a really abbreviated one because they usually come out at 4:30. So we'll assess that tomorrow. But I'm not going to promise I'm going to do an afternoon meeting on Apple earnings day. I usually don't. But maybe we'll do a short one because they usually report at 4:30. That's all I got. I don't have anything else to talk about. Does anybody have anything for me to look at, or chats, comments, whatever? I'll scroll up here in the VTF at 4, but there's a ton of noise in here on all the earnings reports, so I might miss questions. What's Service Now doing? They're up big also. A lot of companies performing really well here after hours, outside of Align and Teladoc. Where's that PayPal at now? PayPal's up a little bit here also. It's trying. Those numbers don't look great to me. If guidance is bad and it holds the EPS low, then buy? I've never looked at it that way before, Rich. Generally, I don't know. We could be seeing a new normal here with this market. I mean, we could be seeing an adjustment to a new normal with this market, because what we have seen here for this entire correction, and again, I've said that the bear market, if you will, or the top of the market, wasn't actually in November, December of last year. It was really in January, February of 2021. This is when most stocks, especially anything growth related, topped out. So you've kind of had multiple contraction here going on for how long now? Over a year. We've seen multiple contraction. We've seen the bubble burst over a year ago, and in this, especially in these last 6 months on the way down here for the market and for a lot of these stocks that are off as big as they are, it was all about guidance. It was all about, if you were a growth stock and you missed on guidance, even by a little bit, you were down 10 to 30% after hours. And now here again, maybe with, what we're seeing here with Facebook, which does have a small miss on their guidance, maybe this is an adjustment the market is beginning to change. And I've just seen this happen many times over the course of my career. When things get really frothy, you can report an okay earnings report and still sell off. And the opposite is also true. So this is super notable to me. Right now it's just in a vacuum with one stock, but it's super notable to me that this Facebook earnings report, I still don't look at it as fantastic, that the stock is trading as well as it is. And again, take it with a grain of salt, because we're not even at the high that we were at 6 days ago, even with this up move, which just shows you. I mean, what's the NASDAQ down coming into today? 12% on the month. I think I read at one point today when I was doing a little research and reading that the NASDAQ is having its worst month since December 2018, and that it is off 12% on the month, just on the month of April, which is not yet closed. Okay, here, let me scroll through a lot of the noise in the VTF. Thanks, David. David M saying I could definitely manage a fund. Hopefully I could manage a fund better than ARK. She gets a 75 basis point fee for her ETF. Wow. So, doesn't matter if you make money, right? Who cares if your execution is good or bad? You just got to get a good cult behind you. Can we develop a good cult behind me? Subscribe to Derrick the Trader on YouTube if you haven't already. We got about 850 followers. If we could get that to a couple 100,000, maybe we could start to build out the cult following. Oh man, good stuff, good stuff. Still just scrolling through here to see if there's questions. There's just a lot of chatter on these earnings reports as kind of expected. I'll try on Apple. The problem is, so if I'm flat in Apple, I like to share the level 2 in the afternoon meeting so that I can review it. The problem is I'm probably going to keep at least a little bit of something into the Apple report. And if I'm showing you my level 2, it shows my position, and that is a compliance violation. So I might be able to talk about it without showing the level 2, but I don't think I'll be able to actually show the level 2 for Apple tomorrow, which is unfortunate. Any thoughts on Beyond? I don't know where the dust settled on that. This was so crazy today too. I don't know where the dust settled on this news. So Beyond came out and they said or they didn't say it. Somebody said that McDonald's and Beyond have solidified a partnership that's going to be a going concern, basically for the McPlant burger or whatever, for all their stores going forward. And the stock ripped, and we know this thing's got a large short float. And I was rooting for it. And we got the news super early into the VTF, and some of you guys were able to get that buy, which is awesome. This thing ripped, large short float, though, again, not even to April highs. This thing was up so big at one point, and it still isn't even up to the highs of April. It just shows you how brutal this month has been. And there was those halts on the way up, on limit up, limit down, and then it started coming down, and then they halted it again, and they said that the news wasn't true. So they brought this thing all the way back down. And then it was ripping again like the news was true, and I know there was another headline. I don't remember what that headline was. And then it closed up, but not dramatically like it was. I don't know the full details on all the news on this right now, Edwin, and I think you need to know that in order to be able to have a thought process behind what this thing should do. It is heavily shorted. If that partnership were to be real, it would be huge for the stock, but I don't know where the dust fully settled on that thing, so I can't tell you. From a technical perspective, it still doesn't look great. It's got to get above 5150 to start looking great. Stock's at 37. So I don't know. I guess there's a potential of a double bottom here. If this news were to help a little bit, you've got a potential double bottom if these lows more or less hold. But again, confirmation of a double bottom would be above 5150. I mentioned in the morning meeting talking about double tops and double bottoms. So, you know, if you had a technical analysis textbook, which is something I consider to be an oxymoron, then typically doubling the space between the low of your W pattern and the midpoint of the W pattern is what you're looking for. And the opposite is true with a double top, which they also call an M pattern. So if Beyond can get above 5150, then you'd be looking at a doubling of the move from, you know, let's just call it 35 to 51. So that's a $16 move. So you'd be looking for $16 of upside above $51. So you'd be looking for a move to, what did I just say, $16 of upside? So you'd be looking for a move to, like, I don't know, $67, $68, something like that. I was looking at Roku pre-market when I was doing my research, and I really scrolled out on this piece of garbage, and I just wanted to mention this again because it is kind of incredible. A lot of times when I see these massive patterns that are like this, and people are like, oh, it's a potential double top or whatever, I look at how massive it is, and I say to myself, if this thing were to break, you're looking at a doubling of this massive move. It's almost impossible. So most of the time, when you look at a pattern that's this large, it actually can't fully play out. I've seen patterns that are like this, that if they fully played out, the stock would have to be negative, right? And that's kind of what I look at and what I think if someone back here in August, and this is someone, by the way, who has never liked Roku as a company. But if you back in August said, hey, Derrick, there's a potential double top in Roku, and I looked at it and I was like, yeah, I'd be like, yeah, whatever. We're talking about a move here from 490 down to, you know, let's just underestimate and call it 280. So you're looking at a move here that is $210. It's actually a little bit more than that. So then you'd be looking at a move on the break of 280, $210 down. So you'd be looking at a move to 70 bucks. So if you told me that back in here, I'd just be like, yeah, I know that's how a technical analysis textbook works, but come on, is Roku really going to go down to $70 like that? Look at the price of the stock. Like, you would have to have something, you'd have to have an accounting scandal in order for that to happen. Nope, here we are. Here we are. And not only are we here, we're here quickly. This was just last summer that this thing was peaking at 500 bucks on that second high. This was just in July. This hasn't even been a full year, and this thing has gone from $500 to $87. And it's still, by the way, not even at your technical analysis textbook actual measured move yet. The measured move to this thing is probably to 60 and change if you really measured it out properly. And again, this stuff doesn't have to work perfect. As a matter of fact, it shouldn't work perfect. But incredibly notable. And looking at the potential double bottom and beyond, maybe think about it. Twitter earnings tomorrow. Twitter is another one. What a market environment we're in right now. For Twitter to be trading at 48 and change with the buyout at 54.20, that's such a huge discount. It's such a huge discount. The market art players are saying there's a very real chance that this Twitter deal is not getting done. Justin asking me if I think that today could be comparable to March 8th. Let me remind myself on which day March 8th was. Back in here, it led to this consolidation before this breakup. I don't know. I don't know. I mean, one of the things that I'm really trying to pay attention to, and I think I mentioned this in the morning meeting, or maybe I mentioned yesterday's afternoon meeting, is it was back in here in mid-March that we were likening the market to a coil that had been pushed all the way down and that could be ready for a big pop. And the way that we were looking at that is through sentiment and positioning. I'm not sure that we're quite where we were in March, even though we know that nobody's got anything long right now, right? The retail money is not long, institutional money is not long. So if any long money were to start coming into the market, it could catch a big bid. But it wasn't just the lack of long money here. It was also the degree of shorting and hedging that was on. And I don't know if we've seen that same degree of hedging hit the market here in mid-April that we saw there. So from that perspective, I'm not sure if we're there. From a sentiment perspective, we are very similar. You know, coming into today, we had both our short and our intermediate time frame sentiment indicators telling us that we were in that buy zone, which again doesn't necessarily mean buy because momentum is a heck of a thing. So I'll actually be really curious to see where those settle tomorrow morning based off of today's close. Because we did consolidate all day, which is technically bearish. Popeye giving me a couple of symbols here. Yeah, VLO we brought up in the morning meeting because it had an excellent earnings report and got a bunch of upgrades and stuff this morning. I just mentioned that I didn't see a good spot for execution. So if I don't see a good spot for execution, even if I like the company and like the chart and like everything else about it, I oftentimes won't trade it. I really want to have something that gives me conviction from an execution perspective. So I'm not surprised to see that it gave upside here, but it's not what I was really trying to position myself for. Yeah, ExxonMobil looks just like the XLE. You know, held in pretty well. Yesterday's candle wasn't great. I didn't like the idea of buying energy today after yesterday's candle because I viewed yesterday's candle as a retest of a breakdown area that held, which is technically bearish. So I was of the thought process that maybe energy was finally going to give the bigger dip that I've been looking for, which I think will lead to a buying opportunity. But of course, every time I'm looking for that really big dip in energy, I don't get it. So not surprised to see that's up. VNTR, I'm not sure what this is. I don't really have an opinion for you on it. It's just super thin. I don't want to trade anything that's got volume that's this low. It's also really cheap, so it's not for me. DVN, I think got brought up in the morning meeting this morning, but I don't remember why. It also looks just like energy. Yeah, Diego, I think you're right on Kathy. I don't know. I don't think you can count on upside technically for DVN or XLE right now as they're into these moving averages after this big sell-off from these 2 days. These technicals look neutral to me. Maybe very small time frame, even bearish. Big time frame, definitely bullish. But I would say broadly that these technicals look neutral to me. So it's not where I want to bank. Not where I want to bank my money right now. NEX crushed their numbers. Okay, you can take a look at it tomorrow. Yeah, the risk arb guys on Twitter, it's crazy. From Mike L, we could all play Roku so much better if we just flipped the chart. Beautiful trend break of the 8 and 21 EMA and riding it since. I mean, that's been the case with most of these growth stocks. Most of these growth stocks have just been in this tremendous trend for so long that you could have followed. I don't like it as much now. You missed 90% of the move. You missed 90% down move for a lot of these things. So I don't like them as much now. I'm starting to think again, you know, like if you look at Facebook, that a lot of this stuff might be starting to get priced in to some degree. Facebook is obviously a totally different animal than some of these companies that aren't making any money yet. Yeah, so natural gas looks best to me of energy for sure, and that's kind of why I had this tell on my radar today. AR has been a good one for us in the past as well, and also still looks super strong. So we want to be able to continue to keep an eye on these for sure. This looks like it wanted to build out a wedge and it just immediately broke up, but it's still got work to do. I mean, it had gone totally parabolic, so we'll see. I don't have the same conviction right now in energy on smaller time frames as I had in the past. I just think that some of these things might just need time at this point, and I've been hoping for a bigger pullback to actually let me in. And today was a good day, I think, to get involved in this tell. It was on my list today, literally one of 2 stocks on my list for my research this morning, and it worked out decently and could give further follow through also. So. Yes. All right, gang. I'm going to wrap it up for today. I'm assuming a gap up tomorrow. Maybe a little relief on sentiment, a little relief rally as people just take a deep breath and let it out. But then we've got Amazon and Apple after hours, and it's all back on the table or off the table or whatever on what's going to happen. So have a great night, everybody, and I'll see you tomorrow.